Hey guys, Raj Katecha here from MediaTek Social, here with Dan, CEO and founder of Optimizely. How are you?
I'm doing well.
How are you finding the Web Summit this year? 22,000 people, a bit of a head craze?
It's great. It's great to see such a huge startup community here in Ireland and seeing so many great companies that I hadn't heard of before doing some amazing things here in the summit.
So one of the things that your company does in terms of multivariate testing and split A/B testing, one of my predictions when I'm talking to my clients is that this is soon going to become best practice, but maybe you could tell the people watching on YouTube right now in simple terms what all that is, because it inherently sounds like it's quite complicated.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty simple concept. The idea of A/B testing is just the idea of running an experiment. And the experiment tries different variations of your experience, of your landing page, if it's a website, of your mobile app, if you're trying to improve your mobile app. And you try different of these variations on different groups of people, and you see which is the most effective, which gets the highest conversion rate. If you're an e-commerce shop, it's whether people buy things on your store. And through the process of these A/B tests, you can actually measure what has a higher conversion rate, and then incorporate that winning variation into the way that your website or your mobile app works.
So in literal terms, when you look at an e-commerce site, typically from top to bottom on the pre-fold, the part that loads on the page, you'll have a search bar, you'll have a buy now button, you'll have your parent categories, which are the high-level categories for your e-commerce site. You'll have a main banner, and you're talking about the optimizing of the size and color of these, all tested at the same time on multiple sites, and then the engine gathering the data about which users are converting the most to figure out what's going to lead to the most conversions.
Yeah, it's that concept, but it doesn't have to be dozens and hundreds of variations. It can be some simple changes. It's figuring out what's the most compelling tagline, what's the most compelling experience when somebody first lands on your website or in your app, and then figuring out of those things, what's the most impactful. Oftentimes, people will just simply try an A/B test by adding an exclamation mark at the end of a sentence, but that may not be the most meaningful way to make a difference. And most businesses who don't do A/B testing will find very quick early wins by just coming up with very creative hypotheses. As a marketer, your job is to think about what message will work. And most of the time, you don't have a feedback loop. You don't have a way for you to know whether your instinct or intuition works. A/B testing is a very clear way for you to measure whether or not your intuition is right, and then through that, learn and get better over time.
So you've actually kind of made a science out of the user interface, because I know that A/B testing is more commonplace certainly with e-commerce companies when it comes to email, but maybe less so in terms of dynamic web page generation. So at what stage have you ever had any pushback from traditional UX designers that say, look, this is more of an art than a science and you guys are on one end of the spectrum?
Well, I think it's actually, it's a opportunity to do the best of both. We see Optimizely not as a black box. It's not a magical engine that just makes changes without real understanding of what's going on. What we're building is really the best of a man-machine merger. A marketer, the man or the woman, does what they're good at, the hypothesis generation and creativity. The machine, Optimizely, does what it's good at, statistical inference, number crunching, and understands that between the two of them, they actually get to a better outcome than anyone on their own. So we very much think we have an opportunity to enable designers or marketers, very creative people, to actually get better in their craft by using data to improve and get feedback on what works and what doesn't.
So you had two brilliant talks today here at Web Summit, and I want to look at one subject from both of them. In the first talk, you talked about a very high-profile part of your career where you worked on the campaign 2007 into 2008 for getting President Obama elected. Now, you were the first person to introduce the concept of split A/B and multivariate and data analytics into the campaign. Is that correct?
It was the first campaign that did it. Yeah, we did it on the website where I was playing a key role. The email team was also A/B testing emails and did some really innovative things there. And what we found was that the campaign was an environment where people were willing to take risks. And that biggest benefit we had in 2007 was that Barack Obama was third in the polls behind Hillary Clinton and John Edwards, which gave the entire organization the opportunity to try things that no one had done before. Because if we just took the same playbook that every other campaign was running, we would have ended up just like where everyone else thought we would, which would be third in the polls. And we ended up doing much better than that.
So when I talk to my clients in e-commerce that are in e-commerce about multivariate testing and split A/B, a lot of folks scratch their heads, certainly up front, and one of my jobs is to break that down. But how do you, so early in 2007, 2008, take that to someone like Barack Obama? I mean, when you pitched the idea to him, if you pitched it directly to him, how did he respond?
Well, it turns out the candidate themselves actually doesn't run the campaign. The candidate actually works for the campaign, which is news to me. And so he wasn't in the office very much. I had the opportunity to meet with him a few times. One of the things that I think really helped actually in the early days was I sought forgiveness, not permission. I reran the first A/B test on BarackObama.com without really much approval process. We didn't go to David Plouffe, the campaign manager, and say, "Hey, what do you think of this?" We were in an environment where that was okay, that risks were okay, and as an organization, we knew that this may be an opportunity for us to do something different. And if it worked, it worked. If it didn't, we wouldn't do it again.
So would you say there was almost an element of startup DNA in that campaign?
Absolutely, absolutely. When I was there in December of 2007. It felt very much like an insurgency. It felt like we were going to go and take over the world. And it was funny, the other folks, and probably myself included, in the campaign at that time were a little delusional. They had this idea that this skinny guy from Illinois who nobody thought had a shot actually had a shot. And that was a really magical time to be in an environment where people all came there for a common sense of purpose and a common sense of cause, also a common sense of delusion to think that they actually had a shot, but it turned out to be not so delusional after all.
So last two questions. I want to focus on something that you just spoke about in your second talk here today at Web Summit, which I thought was really incredible, which is multivariant testing for live apps. Is it on iOS and Android?
That's right. On iOS and Android, we're making it just as easy for product managers to take an app and make a change to it and see whether or not that change gets more engagement, more retention. Doing the same thing we did for the web, making it easy and make it just work. We're doing that for native mobile apps.
How do you move through the rigid approval protocol structures of Apple? I mean, if you're dynamically moving around an app and changing the app experience, how are Apple able to police that with their kind of big quality paradigm that runs over their system?
Well, so Apple very much wants app developers to A/B test their apps. They've been very explicit about that. What they don't want is people to use A/B testing platforms as a way to actually show content that's not approved. So if you use a product like Optimizely to create an experience that is not within the terms of service of an Apple iOS product or Android product, they're not going to like that. I like to say that with great power comes great responsibility, and Optimizely gives you that power. And so you have responsibility then to use it to be able to do things that make an app better. It does not require an approval process from Apple. You don't need to go through the deploy process. Optimizely can make a change in real time to your app, just like you could on a website today.
So tell me about the data waterfall that's coming out of that at the moment. Have you received any initial data from live examples of that?
Yeah, we have plenty of live apps in the App Store running Optimizely today. It's working very well, and it's amazing to see how things that today I think we're very much in the early days, the stone ages of app design, and real smart designers and product managers and even developers can use A/B testing to build better experiences. And I think we'll see through A/B testing, apps will get better and better over time. You look at just Facebook. Facebook A/B tests everything they do in their mobile app, and I think that's a great example for other businesses to follow.
And finally, I've spoken to a lot of your competition, a lot of larger, more established multivariant testing companies, and I find that they've got extremely big kind of retainers or contract costs, particularly if they're doing multivariant testing for banks and airlines and so on. At the moment, your company is not profitable, and you said that's on purpose. Is that an opportunity for smaller companies, startups, and SMEs and e-commerce players to work with you?
Well, we charged a very small price to get started. $19 a month is the lowest price point we have, and we have a 30-day free trial. So we very much believe in creating value up front, showing people the value of A/B testing, and over time, as they grow with Optimizely and they pay us more. I think that we definitely generate more value for our customers than we cost every month. So it's a very obvious reason to stick using Optimizely over time. And we think that's the right foundation on which to build a relationship that over time customers will pay us more.
All right, well, that's brilliant. It's been an incredible deep dive into multivariant testing and web optimization. For more links to Optimizely, check out the links in the show notes below on YouTube. And if you want to see all the videos from Web Summit 2014, then make sure you subscribe to youtube.com/MediaTechSocial. Thanks so much.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thanks.